Namo Buddhaya. Welcome to today's video. Today, this special video is entirely dedicated to those who are studying. Now, one of the most frequent questions that I get asked in the comment section is, Bhante, I'm studying and my mind is distracting all the time, and how to focus on studying? Well, today, let's discuss about this distracting mind. Okay, and also I'm going to share with you a few tips where you can practice while you're studying to help to focus your mind on studying. So without any further ado, let's get into these tips. Now, while you're studying, have you ever found yourself daydreaming? Right? Sometimes we sit down to study and we just turn our book on and we start to study, and after a few minutes, what happens to us? We just get distracted, right? We just start daydreaming. Trust me, when I was studying, when I was at home, before I became a monk, when I was studying, I used to daydream a lot, okay? I used to get distracted a lot. So, it is very difficult. I know it is very difficult and it's very hard to focus our mind to studies because we live in a world where there are many distractions. So, what we can do about this distracting mind, and how can we focus on our mind on our studies? Well, there are certain things that you can do, and one of them is, the first thing that I want to share with you today is that I would like you to write down what you become distracted. Okay, this is something that you get heard rarely. Okay, so let's say like this: you're studying, okay, and you turn over the book and you started studying. And sometimes the same thing happens. What is that? Daydreaming. Okay, it's okay. Let it happen. Okay, once you know and once you identify that you are daydreaming, and once you found yourself that you are daydreaming, what do you have to do? I want you to take a pen or a pencil and take a blank paper and write down that thought that you became distracted. For an example, while you're studying, sometimes we used to think about foods a lot, okay? So what do you have to do? Write it down. I got distracted about thinking about biryani, okay? Something like that. Or sometimes we become distracted thinking about the past experiences, the things that happened in the past, okay? So what do you have to do? Write it down, jot it down on a paper. Now, why should we do this? Because most of the time, we are not aware of what we are thinking. When we become distracted and when we daydream, we don't know what is going in our mind. We don't know what we are thinking. We just jump into that stream of thoughts and we just flow down. So what do you have to do? When you write that thought in a piece of paper, right? It's like you're identifying that thought, right? You code that thought and you identified, okay, this is what makes me distracted. This is what makes me unfocused on studies. Okay, then there's a physical thing that you can see, and you can see that it is physically that you are distracting. Okay, so what do you have to do? Write down your distracting thoughts. Okay, then you have a good understanding. When you do this for a little while, what can you do is, and what can you find is, there's a pattern of distractions. That means we become distracted for few thoughts, and they are the thoughts that come again and again to our mind. So what do you have to do? Write it down. That is the first tip. Second tip, identify what makes you distracted and then be brave enough to remove all those distractions. There are triggers that makes us distracted. Let's say, for an example, our mobile phone. Okay, let's say you're studying and there's the mobile phone on the desk. Each and every time it rings a notification, what do? We take our mobile phone and we check what it is. Okay, so a mobile phone is not distracting you. It is a trigger for your distraction. Trigger is just a trigger until you give the power to that to make you distracted. So what do you have to do? Physically, by force, sometimes it's very difficult, okay? You have to be brave enough to do that. Remove that distraction. If your mobile phone is distracting you, be brave enough to remove it. Okay, if your laptop or your any technical device that is distracting you, be brave enough to remove it. And sometimes, right, sometimes we have to use this technology. Okay, sometimes you have to use your laptop to study. So what do you have to do? While you're doing it, be much more disciplined and much more aware of what you're thinking and what you're doing inside it. Okay, use it only for what you want. Okay, while studying. I'm not saying that other times you can use it whatever in whatever way you want, but use it only for what you want while studying. So the second tip is to be brave enough to remove the distractions. Okay, if something is distracting you, you have to remove it. Tip number 3, do not study for long hours continuously. I can still remember when I was studying and when I was at home, I can still remember I used to make these schedules and timetables to study for 2 or 3 hours continuously. You know, it is not productive. So what you can do? You can study for short time intervals. Maybe like, let's say 25 minutes. Okay, you can use 25 minutes to study, okay, and then take a little bit of a break and then again study. And while you're studying, what you have to do, you have to jot down and you have to write down all those distracting thoughts. Okay, keep that in your mind. So do not study for long hours. Just take a break and refresh yourself and then come back again to studies. That is another thing that you can do. And here comes the final tip, the tip number 4. It is the most important thing and the most awesome thing is to practice a little bit of meditation before every study session. Okay, before every study session, let's say you studied for 25 minutes and you took an interval, then you came back to study. Now while you are taking that break, sometimes you do certain things to make your mind busy even more. So what we have to do, we have to just settle down and make our mind to focus. To do that, you can use a little bit of meditation before every study session. Just sit down on your chair and just close your eyes. And the easiest thing that you can do is to watch this flow of breath, in breath and out breath. When you practice this calming meditations like breathing meditation, that is one of the easiest meditations that you can do. When you focus your mind on this in breath and out breath, it helps you to become calm and settle down. Then your mind will get ready to study. Okay, so these are the few things and few easy things that you can do and practice while studying. Okay, so use these things and use these tips to study and make your studies a more productive one. Namo Buddhaya.